For the Newsfirst team, I'm Niresh Elyathambi. With me tonight is Dr. Ajantha Perera, the well-known activist. Good evening and welcome,
Good
Dr.
evening.
Ajantha.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. First things first, Dr. Ajantha, you played a key role in the court case, the fundamental rights case involving the Express Pearl ship, which caught fire and sank several years ago. And it was your case which resulted in the Supreme Court ordering sweeping compensation and other moves towards ensuring that the environmental damage could be restored. The amount, the initial amount which the Supreme Court has ordered is $1 billion from the ship owners. Of course, I think it's on an installment basis, and the first installment is supposed to come next month, I think somewhere around September 23rd. Could you take us through the process as it stands, Dr. Ajantha?
Yeah, so basically, we are very happy with the amount that the Supreme Court decided on. The first installment is to come on the 23rd of September, and then as it comes, it will come to the Secretary Treasury, and we are also putting together the expert team. Then we also have a compensation council headed by a judge, a past judge of the Supreme Court. So basically all these things are happening together. So at the moment what is happening is that we are all trying to kind of be nominated to the expert team, because we want a very good expert team, because this is the very first time that Sri Lanka has decided upon and worked hard upon and actually reached the goal of getting a compensation. So we can't make any mistakes. We need an expert team who are knowledgeable, and also people who will do the right thing for the sake of the country. This is very, very important. We have a goal, because our goal is MIPA has decided upon 6 billion USD as the compensation, and when I calculate the amount, it rises as far as 57 billion USD. And this is very interesting, because recently a similar situation has occurred in India near Kerala, and we need to now watch out as to how big their compensation is going to be, because today this compensation due to shipwreck or burning of ships or whatever the accidents that happen in the ocean are extremely important for the country, because we see there is a lacking of maritime law on safety. And this has been for a while, and no one has really stepped out to get the compensation from the Asian region. And so we have now stepped forward and we are getting the compensation, and therefore we need to work at it, because even the reports which are being done recently by certain other individuals, like from Manchester Technical University, they are actually proving that the damage is far greater, far higher, more long lasting than we actually thought of. So it's fantastic. Other people are interested in it.
Right, but the Supreme Court did point out that several institutions had failed in their duty as far as the Express Pearl incident was concerned. That included the Attorney General's Department and also MIPA, that's the Marine Environment Protection Authority. Both of those institutions came under some criticism from the Supreme Court. Do you think it's enough that the Supreme Court stepped in, or do we need much more vigilance on the part of all stakeholders to ensure that officials in MIPA, the Aegis department and other departments do their duty, at least from now on.
Yeah, because you see, the thing is, the law says polluter pays, polluter must pay. So whoever has contributed to the pollution, whoever has hindered compensation, has to now actually pay. Because what we believe, what we firmly believe is, for example, let's take the Attorney General's Department, the past Attorney General's Department, Mr. Sanjay Rajaratnam's department at that time, during the time of Mr. Rajapaksa being the minister, Mr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa. Now they decided to take this case to Singapore, and they have already spent 4.5 million USD on this case, and nothing came out of it. Not a single cent, nothing worth came to Sri Lanka out of that. The government money was spent on it. So now time has come for us to collect that money from those who decided to take it to Singapore. Because if nothing comes out of that expenditure, and it's taxpayers' money, and it's 4.5 million USD is not a small amount of money. So we need to get that money back. And so the Supreme Court has given the directive that from the date of the judgment, within 3 months, the CID needs to investigate on this and provide a report. So that too will come in September. So we have to wait and see how much of that money we can actually recollect. Then we have also a bribe that was spoken about, 250 million USD. And this amount is in the Lloyds Bank in London. And the CID was to go and investigate and get that money.
That was the allegation that was
made. The allegation, and that was said by not anyone else, but Mr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa himself in the parliament, in the parliamentary consultative committee meeting. So he can't say, I never said so, because, you need to know that when we, very often we say, okay, in the parliament you can say anything and get away with it. But that has to come to a halt now, because, we want a system change. No? So system change doesn't allow those kind of rubbish to be said if you don't mean that. So therefore, that money needs to also come back, and I believe the CID will look into it. I myself have given, my statements are there in the CID, and therefore I believe that money also needs to come. And then we come to MIPA. Now MIPA chairman, the former MIPA chairman, is the one, the lady, she was the one, the lawyer lady, she was the one who was actually being said that she did not perform her duties as she should have to protect the ocean. Now the question is, even if new people are being appointed, right, they can't wash their hands off and say, I am clean, I wear a new suit, therefore I don't have to think about it. No. If you sit on that same chair as where another person was, then you need to start from there. And therefore, it's very important. Now there are new cases of this ELSA. I think it's called ELSA.
It's ELSA 3, which sank off Kerala.
Yeah, and now the MIPA general manager, I saw him making a statement to say that people can eat fish, there is no problem. Now my question to the general manager is, what makes you say so? Are you a scientist, or are you also someone who can predict suddenly? You can't do that. So any statement made by a scientific organization like MIPA needs to have evidence. And you should have taken water samples, you should have taken the fish samples, and you should have tested for them. You need to publish how many fish you have actually analyzed, how many water samples have you analyzed, before you say the fish is safe for people to eat the fish. And then he has also said the biodiversity has not been affected. How? How do you know that? You need to do experiments to know about the biodiversity. You need to take, you need to do field work. I mean, did you dive? So, what I'm saying is, okay, the MIPA chairman may have been wrong, but the new people who sit on those chairs, they can't wash their hands and say, we haven't done anything wrong. Because if you sit there, then you need to put to correct, or you need to correct what was in the past.
Now, there is a similarity between the two shipwrecks, the Express Pearl and the Elsa 3, in that both were carrying plastic pellets, millions of plastic pellets, which we learnt the word nurdles. They're called nurdles, and that is what mainly polluted our coastline, and it continues to this day. The coastline around Jaffna, Mannar,
Exactly.
Kalpitia, it's all polluted. More and more nurdles wash up every day. So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot of action with regard to the Elsa 3. And there was very little action regarding the Express Pearl. So have we learnt our lesson?
No.
Or are we just, it's, we're waiting for the next shipwreck?
No. This is the problem with the Sri Lankan authorities. They go to sleep and they sleep forever until we all come and wake them up. That can't be the case, because last time also, we are the people who spend the money and put the cases forward. And then eventually, okay, we are very happy we got the compensation. We don't want any credit. We don't want any crowns for that. But at least the authority, they need to now come into action. But at the same time, as much as they have not learned the lesson. That's what I said. For example, before you decide whether your coastal areas are safe, before you decide whether the toxic chemicals have also got washed in. Now the pellets, because they are visible with your eyes, we are saying there are pellets. But what about the chemicals? The chemicals are also washed into the water, and the fish are absorbing them, and we are eating the fish. So the question is, are you looking after the consumers? We can't expect the fishermen to do the testing. It's the MIPA and with NARA, with the Ocean University, who needs to do the testing. And they have a council.
And Dr. Ajantha, the tests, if any, have been conducted. The test results should be out there for everyone to see. It should be on the MIPA website or whatever website, and it should be easily accessible so that we can see whether tests were carried out and what type of tests, whether they were sufficient and thorough scientifically.
Exactly.
And then from those, and tests have to be carried out week after week
Exactly.
for many months and years. So you can't just have an official or two just going and say, oh, it's safe, because we really don't know.
No, the thing is, it's not a difficult test. It's a very simple test. Even I can do that.
I mean, you're testing for chemical compounds.
What you do is you take the fish, you dissect the fish, you take the flesh, the muscles, and then you take also different parts of the fish and you test for the residues. You know what the chemicals are which are being dumped into the ocean right now because of the accident. And then what you do is you get the standards of those chemicals and you do through a gas chromatography. Simple thing. I mean, I did my whole PhD on gas chromatography and I know how to do that test. But I never got a call. I was never asked about it. You see, this is the same attitude they have. They never want to get the people on board and do the work.
Now, this is not new technology either.
No, this is old technology, as old as I
am. But we don't hear of such tests. Maybe they have been conducted, but then why would the results be secret?
No, the question is, people are eating the fish the main protein for the people of Sri Lanka comes from fish. And so the poor fishermen, every day they are nervous. They don't know whether the fish they catch and give to the people or sell to the people, that is good enough for them to eat, because children are also eating. Now, I worked on pesticides, right? Tiny amounts of pesticides, which is in the ppb, parts per billion range. I worked with parts per, not even millions, parts per billion range. And I found out that those chemicals, pesticides, right, a special pesticide called Linda, that gets accumulated in the muscle tissues, right, very quickly. And so if we eat the fish, right, it comes into our digestive system, gets absorbed by the intestines and gets deposited in our body, in the organs where most of the fat is, including the brain, in amounts. And so the more fish you eat, the more it gets accumulated. We call that process bioaccumulation, biological accumulation. It does not have an effect immediately. What happens is, when your body becomes weak through a cancer, through a kidney disease, through some other infection, or maybe through a bronchitis, all of a sudden those chemicals get into your blood system, and in that blood it goes all over your body, and eventually you could get more cancer. Your cancer might spread faster because of these chemicals. I'm not trying to put fright into you, because if you read the medical journals, you can find out all about these things. And that's why we are crying out. I'm not crying out for myself. I'm crying out for the sake of the people of this country. I mean, let me go back many years ago when I was a senior lecturer at the University of Colombo. I did some research work at ITI. My research work was, how much of pesticides are there in kangkung? You know, delicacy. We all go to restaurants and we eat kangkung with garlic and all sorts of things. Okay. So we tested for it. And when I tested it, how much pesticides are there in kangkung, beyond the WHO standards, pesticides were available in kangkung. So what I did was, I got a journalist and I spoke to him about it, kangkung, mokunuvanna and diagova, how much pesticides there is. And we published it. Immediately, that journalist lost his job, right? And I was told off by the university as to why I published it, even though it was perfect results. And I spent a lot of money at ITI, I threw a grant on that. But we were not allowed to speak about it. So in this country, hush hush is just to, today we don't know what our fish is about.
But let me put it to you, Dr. Ajantha, that is criminal to cover up if you have done tests and you have the results.
Yeah.
You cannot simply keep the results in a drawer and not release it to the public.
Exactly.
Because it's like a witness to a murder.
Exactly.
If you see someone being murdered, you can't walk away. It's a criminal offense.
Aralagangvilla. I did research in Aralagangvilla with an American professor. 2 American professors came to Sri Lanka. They wanted me to be their assistant. So at that time they were professors. So I went and worked with them. And we published the data that was diagova and kangkung again growing along the paddy fields. And when you add pesticides to the paddy fields, how much of that actually gets into the drains and how much of that is actually absorbed by kangkung and diagova, right? And we found the same results, far beyond the WHO standards. And now it's published because it's an American journal. Right? So I managed to get it through there. So what I mean is, this is dangerous. We are playing with danger, and that's why I'm very keen to get the compensation, because we need to put an end to this in the Indian Ocean, in our region, all these accidents are happening. We do not want our region to be a dump site for misfitting vessels. Now it looks like a dump site. Indian Ocean being used as a dump site for all these vessels that come suddenly and they either catch fire or something happens to them and they go under and nothing can be done. No, no, no. We don't want our region to be that, because this is our economic zone. We have an economic zone in the sea which is actually in order for us to earn money by utilizing its resources, and we don't want it to be a dump site for vessels.
You're
ships.
speaking of the 200-mile zone out, from the shoreline.
Exactly.
But even if a shipwreck occurs outside of that zone, Dr. Ajantha, if the pollutants come into our waters,
Exactly.
we are still entitled to compensation on the polluter pays principle.
For that, I want to really speak to the president right now. For that, the president must put good, knowledgeable people with a backbone to MIPA. Otherwise, you will not get your job done. Because when the MIPA chairman was changed, he should have changed the whole cadre there. Because they worked together. There were 3 different shipwrecks or ship accidents, and we did not receive for 2 of them. Small amounts of money we got, but this is the first time ever that we managed to get a proper compensation. So isn't it right when I say that there should be a good team? I mean, it's about team effort, it's about commitment, it's about the ability to say, okay, we need to get this job done. Do sampling, scientific. We cannot take any decisions without data. We need scientific reasoning through scientific data. And I'm saying that as a scientist.
Now, Dr. Ajantha, the testing of, let's say, fish or water for chemicals, it's a simple test, isn't it? I mean, we learned these things in O-level classes, how to test for certain chemicals, and nowadays you can test for anything. You don't need foreign expertise for this. You don't have to send your fish samples to Florida or London or anything. It can easily be done here. But are we utilizing our resources here, our institutes?
We have good equipments. At the moment, I think ITI still has the ability to do this testing. I'm not too sure of NARA, but maybe IFS. You see, we have a lot of institutions which are called research institutions. They do not become research institutions if they do not have equipments. We don't need doctorates there. Doctorates are there in order for you to utilize the equipment in order to get the results done. We need reagents, we need standards. It's very, very important. And the government, I am sure, we have a good Prime Minister. She understands the subject. I mean, what the universities need and so on. And so she could provide the finances also to purchase these equipments. Okay, so once you purchase these equipments, right, it's a matter of actually getting the results. So, for example, how many testing have we done since the Express Pearl incidents? BBC has reported now that scientists from Manchester Technical University have found out that the nurdles that they have found in Sri Lanka that were burned are leaking heavy metals, which means our whole area is polluted. And when they are testing, they are seeing that those heavy metals are actually in fish. And they are also seeing that the chemicals that were being transported by the Express Pearl are actually found in the fish. Now, when I say that, it's very alarming. And I don't want to put people through that. But these are scientific papers. But in order to confirm those things, in order to rest assure the people, in order to say in which areas this is not happening, you need to use the labs. You can't be seated on your AC rooms and do nothing. And you and I here screaming at the top of our voices, and they don't care.
Well, we will continue screaming, but right now we need to take a short commercial break. I am with Dr. Ajantha Perera, and we'll be right back.
A trusted place for your fixed deposits. Valuable FD, 10.25% for 15 months, 11% for 24 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
තනු දිශි ගැන හිතනවා. තනු දිශිට ආදරය කරනවා.
තාත්තා රෝසමලක් වගේ බන්දේසික තියලා ඔයාගේ පැත්තට දික් කරන්නේ. බාඳුරාමලක්.
තනු කියන්නේ පුංචි දෙයටත් මහා මොහොතක් ඉරින්න තරම් අඬන්න කඳුළු තියෙන ඇස් දෙකක්.
සාම්ප්‍රදායික ගොඩේ කෙල්ලෙක් ඇමරිකන් මේරිෂි? නෑ. නෝ වේ අම්මා. කවදාවත්.
සංසාරා අද රාත්‍රී 9:30ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්
ගලා පසින කඳු රැලියක අහිමිව යන උරුමය
දෙවියන් වහන්සේගේ නාමයෙන් මගේ දරු පැටියට කරදරයක් අනතුරක් සිද්ධ නොවේවා.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am with Dr. Ajantha Perera, the noted activist. Now, Dr. Ajantha, with the new government now in power for nearly a year, there's been a lot of progress in many areas. But when it comes to the environment, are you satisfied? Is there enough focus? And of course, this government has had a tough time having to deal with the bureaucracy, the corruption, passing new laws, so many things. But now that it's been there for almost a year, do you feel that we need to refocus on the environment?
Yeah, I think the most important for the Minister for Environment is that he needs to understand the gravity and the massiveness, or how big, immense is the area that he is representing. Now, environment means the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. All those things are also included. And then we also have to look at the nature. The Constitution says very clearly, nature must be protected and taken care by the government, not the non-governmental or people like me. It's the government who has to take care of it. But when I look at it, I do not know who the advisors to the Minister for Environment is, to be very frank with you. I have not even met the Minister for Environment, and therefore, what I can say is he needs to understand that this is a very sensitive subject, and he needs to be focusing very well as to how he could take care. For example, if he is going to work on the forest cover, right, he needs to understand how big the forest cover is. He needs to understand how it has been separated. And what has separated it, and then he needs to also find out about the wildlife. How are they going to survive if the forest cover is separated? Their original habitats are being destroyed. Who is encroaching into it? Should they encroach into it? All those things he should take care of it. Then when it comes to water resources, how much of soil erosion is actually happening, and are the industries actually looking after according to the environmental protection license which are being given to them at the point that they got the environmental impact assessment approved? Have they actually stuck to the guidelines that are given to them? Are they doing waste management, solid waste management according to that? And are the wetlands being filled? Now today, I don't know whether the Minister for Environment has visited the Bellamvilla Attidiya wetland. There's nothing there. Earlier there were flamingos coming there. Beautiful flamingos used to come. People used to go and watch them, and it was called a heritage site. And we got a huge amount of money for the Bellamvilla Attidiya marsh. Today, only crocodiles and people. People have encroached into that area, and they are building houses. Nobody goes to visit them. And the wildlife office is right in front of where the encroachment is. So, these are the things that the Minister for Environment should look into. Then the amount of pesticides that are being used in the country. Whether it's being used in paddy cultivation, tea plantations, where is it being used? Are they getting washed into Kalani River? Is it getting washed into Mahavali River? He needs to look at those things. And the garbage issue, I think we talked about it earlier. But even with regard to garbage issues, there is a national policy on solid waste, which I myself have written together with those days the Director, Environment, and Mr. Champika Ranawaka. We worked very hard to write and publish it. And there I says, recycling, reducing, reusing are the priorities with composting, and then with biogas, only residual waste, which is about say 15%, can be put in a landfill site. Today, 80% is being put in the landfill site, right? 20% is being maybe attempted to compost and recycle and reuse and reduce. So the whole solid waste policy is turned upside down.
Now, Dr. Ajantha, when it comes to garbage disposal, we seem to get things back to front. We as a nation, we seem to throw everything out into the environment, and then we do things like beach cleanups to clean up what we have messed up and what others have messed up. So this is back to front, isn't it? What we should be focusing on is to stop this disposal of garbage into the environment in the first place.
Yeah, it's sad because I see the government is very interested in cleaning up programs. I am not saying anything against Clean Sri Lanka. The president has started it. I wish him well with that. But that's not all. Cleaning up is not the only thing we can do. There is a national policy on solid waste. We need to recycle. We can recycle. There is paper recycling, glass recycling, plastic recycling happening in Sri Lanka, and also a lot of that recyclable materials are being shipped to either Singapore or China. This is happening. So this should be enhanced. People should be promoted who are actually recycling so that this industry will bring money for us. Then you also have composting. Composting should be done in such a way that it is commercialized. You don't do composting so that you can say you are composting. Like certain, Pradesh Sabha local authority areas, they are just doing composting, but they are not selling it. Now, I remember during the high peak of war in 1997, I built together with the GT, the government of Germany, technical, they call it the Zusammenarbeit, it's basically a project where the money actually came from Germany, and we built a compost plant in Vepamkulam in Vaunia. And Plot was the actually who was holding the chairperson of the urban council, and even the LTT took part in it. Tello was there, and the government was there, and we actually built the compost plant in Vaunia, and we actually packed the compost, and it was called Eureka, and we sold it.
Now, is that plant still in operation?
Still in operation. Actually, I should say thank you to LTT because they looked after it, and then eventually now it's been looked after by the local authority. So it's fantastic job. 1997 to now still functioning. And I have to say there are certain local authorities where I meet the chairpersons and they are doing a great piece of work, and I'm happy about that, and that's a good thing. But you see, the most important thing is when you make compost, make sure that you test it. Again, I'm coming back to science. Where you can test for the quality of the compost. If the quality is a little low, make sure that you add that compost onto something so that you get the NPK value so that it can be utilized very well for plant growth. And compost is a soil conditioner. It's not a compost is actually, it's just a word, but compost is actually a soil conditioner. So if you use compost in, let's say, for example, in the dry region, where the water is very low, availability is low, the compost will absorb the water, retain it, so that the plant will be given its nutrients slowly. It's a fantastic process. So you need to actually do it in a very scientific manner.
And in a commercially viable manner.
I'm talking about money. I'm not talking about garbage. I'm talking about money. Recycling is money. Reducing is money. And then composting is money. Biogas is money. We don't have money, so make some money.
Right. So, professionalizing the recycling is
Precisely.
what you're talking
now,
about.
Every local authority, that's why I said, when they were choosing people to contest in the local authority election, I was always emphasizing the fact, choose people at least with a degree. So they understand what teamwork is, they understand a little bit of science, they understand the quality of data, they understand exactly how the data can be put into the computer and then analyzed, and you can take decisions in the Pradesh Sabha. It doesn't matter which party you come from, but make sure that you work with data. Data is the most important, because today we have enemies. The international community are our friends. I grew up abroad and I have been abroad for 25 years of my life. So they are my friends, but they are our competitors. We can't afford to be, asking them for money only. We need to be in competition with them. For example, now in the plastic pellet issue, when I was looking at the regulations for carrying plastic pellets in ships, their regulations are extremely poor. That's why we are having accidents. That's why Express Pearl accident sent out billions of noodles. And that's why even in the Kerala, when this happened with the recent past, pellets went all over because the packing of pellets is poor. And they don't have proper regulations. They have now a new regulation which is called MEPC 1/Circular 909, which has come only in 2024 by the IMO. So this all happened because of the Express Pearl ship disaster. So what we are working with, see, we are faster than them.
When you say IMO, that's the International Maritime Organization.
Exactly, and they didn't have a circular on that. And so we managed to put that circular there because of the Express Pearl ship disaster, because of our voices only, that IMO worked hard enough to put a circular to give the guidelines how the plastic should be packed. But even that, I feel as a scientist, is weak. And now the EU is trying to put forward some guidelines.
So, why is it, Dr. Ajantha, that we as a nation, which suffered immensely from the Express Pearl disaster, why is it that we haven't gone to the UN, to these global organizations which have the jurisdiction, they have the power? Why haven't we gone to them and said, this is our experience and this has to be done, these conventions, these laws, regulations have to be changed to ensure that this won't happen again?
No, I did. I actually went to the UN twice, and we really spoke about, for them to speak to IMO regarding the rules and the regulations. This came forward because there was a delimitation order taken in the UK, and I was very worried about it, because if you get a delimitation, that means the amount of compensation will be capped. That means we will not receive billions. So because of that, I went to the UN and I spoke to them. I actually gave in writing to them that they need to look into these aspects. And we talked about the rules and the regulations, like for example, plastic pellets. So I'm not going to take the credit by saying, may these things have come because of us. But we did speak. Our voices worked.
But Dr. Ajantha, why is it that you have to keep going to places like the UN and of course our Supreme Court? Where are the government institutions, the bureaucrats? And we can't be waiting for the politicians to do this. Their knowledge is of course limited.
Exactly.
They are politicians. But the scientists and the civil servants who have that knowledge, who are in all these organizations, the government institutions, which, I mean, places like MIPA and Coast Conservation, the Navy, all these people, it's their job to protect the country.
Yeah, I'm very sad with the wildlife department because all the carcasses from the turtles that died are at the moment, good majority of it is in the wildlife department. I went to check on them to see whether they have actually done any residual analysis. They didn't even allow me to actually come inside. And when we forced ourselves in, they didn't chase me. Good, I mean, I can't say they chased me, that chased the media out. But but the thing is, they have not tested. I mean, they should have, if there were 50 carcasses that came to them of turtles, they should have tested for all those carcasses, maybe even 100, and should have kept the results with them. See, now they have refrigerated them, and I know as a scientist that if you keep the carcasses, the flesh, the muscles in a refrigerator or a deep freezer, the amount of contaminant will come down. The concentration of those chemicals eventually come down. So now they will test and find that there was nothing, very little.
But that almost seems like a cover-up, although of course we can't make any such accusations. But inaction itself is quite, it's part of the cover-up.
No,
isn't it?
They survive. You see, you and I, we speak about it, but their positions are permanent positions, and nobody is able to shift them aside. So what they do is they become a director or head of an institution or whatever, and they survive until their pension. See, this is why I always tell the present governor, I'm happy about the president. He's a young president, and I'm happy that he's there. But he needs to understand, unless he looks at their TOR and ensure that these people are working according to their responsibilities and their performance is good, and also any foreign travel, any extra income they are getting or their promotions are based on their performance. If that can be done, then we can progress further. But if you continue to give them whatever they want, just to please them. See, Sri Lankans should not be given things to please them. I would not do that. Because what I believe is, if you give Sri Lankans promotions and all these things without looking into their performance, this country will remain poor, and we don't want it to remain poor. And right now, it's the job of the government, job of every minister in the government to make sure that they do look into their performance. And also, can you please turn off these ACs there? They're sitting in the AC, they're too comfortable, they're going to sleep. Right?
They're not going out in the field.
And they're not going, and every director, deputy director, manager, everybody's been given vehicles. And they're flying all over the place. I mean, next time we know is they'll be, they'll be going in helicopters. And then eventually what will happen is, and we talk about corruption. That's corruption.
Absolutely. We are almost out of time, Dr. Ajantha, but I'd like to draw your attention to one final question, which is, we spoke about garbage disposal, and you spoke about the need for recycling. Do we have sufficient recycling plants in this country? And we have some private sector plants. Are there enough, and should the government get involved and invest in recycling plants?
Yes, that's a very good question. This is something that I have been speaking to every government, and I must say they have not really done that well. Because every local authority must have a composting plant. It should be commercialized. Then every local authority must start a recycling of plastics. Make pellets. If we make pellets, we don't have to bring pellets from another country and have another disaster. So we can actually recycle plastics here in Sri Lanka, and we have the know-how. And there are enough people who knows how to make that machinery. Then we also have glass recycling that can be done here in Sri Lanka. I know they are collecting Marmite bottles, beer bottles, and you can make new bottles out of it. And then also paper. Of course, we have Valacheni and Abilipitia. Both of them can recycle. And so we have that plant. And then, there are, whatever we cannot recycle, we don't have to make such a great effort. Every local authority is collecting waste which has been separated. That's what the national policy says. We put it there so that there is segregation. We even set up places outside on the road in order to do that. I mean, this is work that we have done. All what you need to do is to duplicate them. And so you collect that and you ship it to China or you ship it to Singapore. But when you are shipping it, you need to get a license, because you have to go according to Basel Convention. Basel Convention says very clearly you need to have a license for you to be able to ship it to another country, because you are going across the ocean.
Right, and these are not new practices. These are, they're decades old, and it's about time that Sri Lanka got its act straight in terms of things like garbage disposal and, of course, protecting our coastlines and our coastal waters. I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to Dr. Ajantha Perera, who is a well-known activist, who is an activist in many areas. Thank you for being with me this evening, Dr. Ajantha.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.